See if anyone pops up. We are live. Right. Well, hello to YouTube world. I'm here with a really cool guest from all the way from the US, and it's Keith Gorophobe. Say hi, Keith.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate the invite, man. I ain't had a chance to really talk about music or anything in a while. I usually talk about movies, which I love that. But I kind of just give me a chance to talk about my band days and my heavy metal days for the first time in quite a while. So I appreciate that.
Ah, that's cool. I'm lucky that I've managed to get back into it after my 10-year hiatus. But well, I think we've both got quite a past because we both come up in the metal world, got as far as we did, and hasn't necessarily come to a dead end, but it's not the main aspect of our lives anymore. But I'm sure we got some amazing memories, and the fact that I'm in the UK and you've come up through the US scene, we only see each other's scenes from the outside, so it'd be nice to get an inside view as to what it's like for you to play clubs, rehearsal rooms, getting bands together, and all that kind of stuff.
Which is the hardest part: getting your band together and keeping it together. You know, what I mean, it's like a carousel of revolving. And did you notice? I don't know if you have the problem, but most people did when they spend bands together. There's always that one position where you can't keep somebody in that spot. You know what I mean? It's like you got a full band together. It's like yeah, we got everybody but the bass player. You know what I mean? or whatever. You know what I mean?
It's usually bass players and drummers that are the hardest to get.
Yes, it is. Right. Hey, Cheekster, Gary, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you guys. How y'all doing?
I've met Cheekster in person. Cool guy. Gary Hedge. No idea who you are. Unless I do. If I do, I'm sorry. Because the YouTube handles might be slightly different. But
hey, Jerry, what's going on? Hey, Jerry. How you doing, man? Yeah, this is my first time streaming with Trevor here, man. So yeah, I seen your channel for the first time maybe a year and a half ago, and I do believe the video that I commented on was the one where you were showing off that custom Blue Underground Zombie 4K, because I got in there late to get that one too. I got at the same time as I got Housewife Cemetery and Maniac, and they all had slip covers, but Zombie one didn't, and that's become a really tough one to get a hold of. Of course, I do the Air one, but
I've now sold that Blue Underground 4K with the custom slip that I had made, because I guess we're both waiting for the new Arrow Zombie Flesh Eaters to come out. And I thought, I don't need. I mean, I've got these two.
yeah.
I've got the Steelbook.
Yeah, I got that. Nice. Yeah.
And then of course we've got the Pièce de Résistance, the one that only has 500 copies.
Yeah.
Get it off eBay, but I won't be getting rid of this. This is mine now.
Yeah, I got that. Here we go. Shit, wait, so I can read my stuff here. Yes, that's the one here. You wouldn't believe the unbelievable deal I got on that Zombie Flesh Eater. You see, like I said, I basically kicked off my collection with it. Still sealed, yeah.
Nice, man. Wow, that would be worth a fortune. If it's still sealed.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I got tons of Zombie, man. I probably got 8 or 9 of them. Like I said before, I get carried away with the dipping on my favorite films: Chainsaw Massacre, Zombie, like that.
Yeah. So which title do you prefer, Zombie 2, or Zombie Flesh Eaters?
Probably Zombie Flesh Eaters. I guess my favorite, probably. There's also what is it called in German? I'm not sure where it is, but it's called Voodoo or whatever, something like that. Voodoo. I don't remember where that's called that, but that's one copy of that film that I don't have. It's where it's called Voodoo.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Yeah.
So I was watching a documentary that's on YouTube about the media company Vipco, who in the UK distributed VHS back in the 80s. And of course, they were right in the middle of what we call the video nasties. Now, to most of the rest of the world, they're just films, they're just movies. I'm guessing you know what the video nasties are. Now, what was interesting was there was a snippet of a story of a guy who was friends with John Carpenter. And when he watched Halloween, he rang up John Carpenter and said, "Did you name the lead character after me?" As in, this guy was called Michael Myers. And John Carpenter said, "Yes, that's where I got the name from." Because they'd worked together a lot, and it was a tribute to Michael Myers. Now,
yes. Oh, sorry. He's that's the guy that actually did the distribution of Assault on Precinct 13.
Yeah. So if I may have misunderstood this wrong, because the guy who owned Vipco was also called Michael, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, what I thought I heard was when they got hold of Zombie to release on VHS in the UK, it was, I'm not 100% sure this is right, so people can correct me in the comments if they want. Michael Myers renamed it Zombie Flesh Eaters. Now, wouldn't that be cool if that's actually...
I think that must be the same guy that did his distribution of Assault on Precinct 13. You know what I mean? It's the same, started that company.
Yeah.
Kind of like I'm guessing probably all the same dude. Yeah. You know,
it's just funny. Michael Myers, one of the most prolific horror characters in the genre. The namesake renaming one of the most highly rated zombie films of all time.
There's a lot of things in films, especially in horror like that. The horror, to me, is one of the most interesting genres because it's the only genre that has many different branches off from it. I mean, there's so many. You got the horror comedy, you got the zombies, you got the vampires, you got, on and on. It goes on, and the connections to it, they're all connected too. It's like I'll let you do it, but one of Robert Englund's first little jobs that he was doing there, he was making films here and there, like Eating Alive and shit like that, was he helped collect the leaves in Halloween to distribute back around.
Yeah.
So they had Robert Englund, and that's all they used him for, was to help him pick up leaves. You know what I mean? It's just that's who they had. Because he really done much of anything yet.
So many of these actors start in horror film. Look at Johnny Depp, his first film, Nightmare on Elm Street, and yet he goes on to be this megastar. And it's great when you dig out this old sort of trashy horror film, and you think, "Oh, I know that person," and you realise it's a young version of someone. And it's not necessarily an easy way in, because a lot of the films are so sort of low budget and just don't know what they're doing. You've got to be lucky if you come across a Toby Hooper, don't you, and someone like that, who went to film school and really studied and put together a good package. But
horror hasn't got a lot of respect in the past. I would say it's respected and more mainstream now than it ever has been, and that's because of physical media like there's YouTubers and shit like that. Because you got films like Exorcist 3, Halloween 3, things like that. That when they came out, they were universally trashed. Now people talk about Exorcist 3 like it was, like this work of art. Well, I'm telling you, those exact same film critics then said it was shit. I went to see that on Saturday opening weekend with a friend of mine, and me and a friend of mine were the only two there. Wow. So, and you probably think Exorcist 2 for that, but it just wasn't respected. Horror was considered just a notch above porn back in the day. It really was. And that's why a lot of those people didn't like to put horror on their resumes when that's what they did. Very few of them you will find actually proud of it. But Johnny Depp actually is. He always describes it as my first film I ate by a bed. And he always tells them, he's proud of it. Of course, Depp's a little different. He's not snotty. You know, he's kind of strange. You know what I mean? He's weird. He's got his own thing going. He's a musician at heart. He wasn't even trying to get that role, as a matter of fact. He took a friend of his roommate to audition for that role because he was a musician. He had a band going during career in Los Angeles. He took his friend out to audition for the Glenn role, and Craven's daughter seen Johnny Depp, and she said, "Pick him, Dad. Pick him, Dad. He's dreamy." You know, and he's like, "But he didn't audition. He let that guy down." And she's like, "I don't care. Pick him for it." And he asked if he wanted to audition. He did. And here we are. You know,
the rest is history.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, I'm fairly interested in the art of filmmaking.
Yes.
And so when I go back and watch these old films, yes, they're trashy, they're low budget, but they're having a go, and that's the main thing, having a go. And you know, everyone starts somewhere, and they're not very good. I mean, take Machine Head, Burn My Eyes, fantastic album, but they were in bands before that. You know,
right.
Bob Flynn in Violence and all that kind of stuff. So they're not new to the game. They're just a different band with a different name and that sort of thing. So let's get into music. Let's
Guns N' Roses, man, they were everywhere. You know what I mean? The name from Guns N' Roses came from Crazy Guns, from LA Guns. You know what I mean? And exactly. They just took people from all these different bands and put them together and made Guns N' Roses. Of course, it was like the most dysfunctional lineup ever put together, but you know.
And they were signed bands. It's not like Guns N' Roses was the first time they were signed to a record label or anything.
Right.
But when I was, you know, back in the day when I was starting out in bands, I mean, I've never been signed to a label. I have one release that I'm on that was put out by a label, but we didn't sign anything. They just distributed it for us, and that's it. So, you know, the band I'm in now, The Grudge, if we get anywhere, they've already got an album on Spotify. In fact, I can show you this called Riding with the Kings.
Yeah.
I'm not on that one, but I'm hoping to be on the second one. And you know, so if we got somewhere, we've been in lots of bands, loads and loads of bands. All of us have, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 different bands in our younger days before we really got anywhere. So we come out with another album, and people think, "Oh, it's you know, it's really good." It's like it's because of the experience we've got. It's very hard to just come out with the first album and sound amazing without having had a background that people don't know about. Same with filmmakers. You know, when they come up with, I don't know, what's an example? Maybe Terminator. You know, I'm sure there's a handful of crappy little films that James Cameron did beforehand to learn his craft and all that kind of thing, make the mistakes and you know, find your niche and that kind of thing. So
yeah, it's actually today though. Actually, look, and just the way the whole scene and just the way the whole industry's went actually supports being able to make it in music at an older age and more through an independent type of path than what it did back when I was trying to do it back in the late 80s and shit like that. I mean, it was ridiculous. I planned on actually going to Los Angeles in about a year or so. When that current band I had at that time completely imploded over each other's women and all this kind of bullshit. But that's what I was going to do. But I was in love at the time. My first love. Well, my second love. My first love was music in my band. But I met this girl, and I totally fell head over heels. The first time ever, real love, first time. And so I held off. and then we broke up 2.5 years later, and when I was almost 20, and then some other stuff happened. I got with this other girl, and then she ended up getting pregnant, and then I held up a little bit longer, and then she ended up getting pregnant again, and then finally when my little boy, because when my second child, my little boy was about 6 months old, my first child, she was born, she was sick, she passed away. And
I'm really sorry, man.
so there I was taking care of a 6-month-old, like my daughter had died. So, and I started to drink a little bit, well, quite a bit actually. And but I had planned on, we got to get up, I got to get up, and we was going to go. And I grew up without a dad, and I knew what it was like. So that was when I had to make the hardest decision I ever made in my life. That's when I had to tell them that I wasn't going to be going to LA with them, because I just couldn't, I couldn't put my, at this time my little boy was probably, he's probably about 2 or 3, like 2, and I just couldn't see myself making that decision to leave him behind my dream. You know what I mean? And it's not like I could take him with me to, the city like Los Angeles, California.
No, exactly.
That was a really bad heartbreak for me. All the tapes that we had made and stuff like that, I threw them away, because it was just how I was dealing with that. That was the way I like to describe it is something that causes you serious, deep pain, a really bad heartbreak. I refer to it as a soul scar, and that was definitely a soul scar.
I totally understand. I mean, that's one of the big differences about the UK scene and the US scene. So for me to go a couple of hours drive, I'm halfway up the country. For a couple more hours, I'm almost all the way up the country. But for you to go from where you are to LA is far greater distance, and
about 3,000 miles. Yeah,
whole life, isn't it? You can't just say, "Oh, I'm going. I'll be back every night," sort of thing. It's not going to happen. So, what a decision, man. And I feel what happened, and
it has to be number one.
Yeah.
It has to be, or you're not going to make it. It has to be what you're doing. Period.
Yeah. But what fond memories do you have? Did you ever do live shows?
Yeah, actually, let me see. Let me go back to about 1988. I turned 15 in 1988. I was born in 73, May of 73. I turned 15 in 88. By that time, I had known since I was 8 years old that that's what I wanted to do, quite earlier than that. So at 15 is when I really started honing my voice and getting my voice together. And I got to where I could really belt it out, man. I had 3 solid harmonies, for real. And I could also write lyrics so good, and I could do the one thing even more important than that. I could arrange them in a song where they really sounded good and made sense and had a great catch to them. That is so important. A lot of times it's not what you say. A lot of entertainers say it's how it's said. You know what I mean? So it's like
delivery, yeah.
So I started honing that and getting all that together, and then I started working on my songwriting. At this time, every day, from my mom would go to work at like 7 a.m. and she wouldn't get off work until 3 p.m. So from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., 5 days a week at least, I had time to work on my voice by myself in the house all day, and I did that for like 3 or 4 straight years. I tried to get a vocal coach, but the people that I was around here in Indiana, they were a lot of Christian, a lot of voice coaches were Christian. They trained for like the church choirs and shit like that, and they flat ass back then refused to train me. I made a mistake in this one night. I almost had her, and she was going to teach me. And she said, "Well, what kind of music do you sing?" And I said, "Well, I like heavy metal and rock." And people asked refused to train me for me doing that. So I teach myself. So I'm self-taught, but I worked on it hard and got my voice sort of really, really strong. So by the time I was about 16, I put my first band together. 16, 17 is when I was still learning, and had several bands in there. By the time I was 18 in the summer of 1991 is when I had my favorite band I ever had together. And we kicked ass. The problem with it is 2 or 3 of the members in it like to live like, because you gotta think, this is 91, so Seattle hadn't taken the heavy metal from us completely yet. A lot of the members of the band like to act like and party like and everything like we're already rock stars. And that's what it started falling apart, Not, especially my guitar player, my best friend. This is a guy, he played really good, one real good solos, he played really good, but he had the best ear I've ever heard on a person. All he had to do was hear a song once, and he could play whatever, he didn't know what riff it was. The guy could play it right away. And that's important to me. He had a great feel. But yeah, that was my favorite band, and we just completely imploded. That fell apart. And then, let's say, a couple months after that, he and I, his name was Shiloh, we together several bands throughout there. He worked from not glam metal. I never did glam, but I mean more of a hard rock metal all the way to Slayer. You know what I mean? So yeah. So I know, man.
Yeah.
We just partied like we were all.
You got to become rock stars before you can really start acting like rock stars. If you're doing it before, while you're still learning your trade, you're just gonna not get anywhere. I've seen it.
Being 18, you know what I mean? Being 18, you know what I mean? That was the time. That was the era. The late 80s was the era of the rock star. So you know what I mean? You've seen all those videos and everything where they all look like rock stars. They all act like rock stars. So of course that's the people we idolize. So
you're just emulating what you see, aren't you? And I get it. I can't say, it's stupid to do that, because they're just following what they're seeing and they're emulating what they want to do.
You got to make music number one.
Sorry?
The music has to be first and foremost. If you keep that in your mind, you don't go that direction. And that's what I tried to tell them. I was always all about the music. Like there was only 3 shows earlier, like organized, you was asking about playing live. Well, we organized a lot of different parties and stuff. And we would, because we were still 18, we didn't, a lot of places we couldn't play yet. So we'd organize our own things together and put together our own parties that we could play and invite people and have them come. And you'd find that the crowd would get bigger and bigger as you did that. So that's how the live thing started really happening for us.
So this is one thing I think the US were seeming able to do, is organize your own shows. We would do flyering and stuff here, but if you were flyering in London, that was for a London show. If you were flyering for your local town that you're playing in, it does seem a bit different, and maybe there was just more call for it for the generation of time to want to go to shows. Would you find like warehouses or were there venues, or how would you go about getting a show together?
Usually as far as jamming, just practicing, it was in a garage or in a house or wherever we could. But as far as the organizing the live shows go, one of them was I'm from a town called Marion, Indiana, which is the same town that James Dean was born in. And we had a park called Matter Park. It was a big park, and they had tennis courts here and all this. But you could go around to the back. It's not a big city. It's just barely big enough to call a city. And in the back of it, you go back, and it had this big stage with this curved roof here. And you had a stage area right here, and had to plug in there, they worked out. And we would organize it there, but you didn't have to we didn't get permission. We could still set up and let everybody know, because between the 4 or 5 of us, we were being 18 years old, a lot of people were that age. And they would tell people, and then word of mouth, you know what I mean? And next thing you know, you got, because they already had benches set up, there's a big area there. One time we probably invited 50 people. There ended up being 200 or 300 there. The police came and because I think they thought some bullshit was going on. You know what I mean? But when they seen it was just us jamming and nobody doing a bunch of drugs and stupid shit, causing any trouble, they just pretty much just turned around and left. They said that, and I was like, man, cool. You're not going to stop us. So what we can't really, it's only about 4 or 5 p.m. First of all, he said. Second of all, I'm not going to stop. You guys don't cause no trouble. So unless somebody from the city gets a hold of us, higher up city person gets a hold of us, we're not going to fuck with you. They said that's what that stage is for. Plug into there. You know what I mean? This is a public park. So we did that and house parties. We would organize them there too.
Yeah, we know that through the movies, seeing bands playing in people's house parties. And was it Deftones? Were they renowned for that?
Red Hot Chili Peppers were. Motley Crue did it. Van Halen did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here in the UK, we couldn't do that. I don't really know of situations like that. So for us, it was little pubs. If a pub decided to put bands on, then it was about giving them your demo, and if they liked it, and if they could put a few bands similar together, that would be it. Or so the first band I was in, the bass player worked in a music shop, and the guy who owned the music shop, he was a drummer, so he was in bands and he knew people, and it was a little bit word of mouth and that kind of thing. But then as we started to get into other bands and get a little bit more serious, you'd record your demo and you'd start sending it out to venues that you knew about, and hoping that a promoter would hear it and go, okay. So I don't know if you've ever heard of the Camden Underworld in London.
Maybe, yeah. I've heard it and watched a lot of different things about bands coming from London, Sabbath and on and on. Well, they came from Birmingham, but London's like the big city there, so it's like I've heard little bits about it, but I'm not sure. I'm pretty much.
The Camden Underworld, it's under a pub called the World's End Pub, and in Camden there's also a venue called the Electric Ballroom. I think there's the Barfly, and there's quite a few little venues around there. But at one point, I was in a band called the Elephant Asylum, and we were playing in a club around the corner from the Underworld. And the promoter, I managed to speak to him on the phone, and he was going to come and listen to us to see if he could then put us in the Underworld, just a big venue. He rang and said he was too busy at the time, otherwise he would have come. So that didn't happen. But they're the sort of things we had to do. And then it wasn't until there's a pub in a town not far from me called High Wycombe, and it was called Whitehall. And in the UK, I think it was quite a known pub. It was very sort of metal central. So many bands came through there, and I played so many shows in there. And one of the promoters, he was into hardcore, and he didn't like. At the time, he didn't like anything else really. He just wanted to concentrate on the hardcore stuff. But then one day, he sort of, I guess, he was a punter as well, so he saw us at the Asylum play, and he sort of thought, maybe I could put that on and do a different night, start expanding his horizons and everything. I mean, he's now one of my best mates, but so we started to get gigs with him, and his promoting became his sole job, and that was incredible. So our scene was not just band members, but people started to branch off into promoting and photography and media and the other. So we kind of built our own network. Sadly, it's mostly gone now. I mean, the White Horse has been shut down a couple of years ago, and so that's no longer there. And I think there's one pub when I first played, and it was called the Roundabout, and then it became the Phoenix, and I think that's still going, and that might be one of the only venues. There's the student union, so there's a university in Wycombe. It's not massive by any means, but it has what they call a student union. I don't know if they have similar stuff in the States, but that is a venue. So, I mean, you know, I've been out of the scene for, like I said, 10 years or so. So I don't know how it's changed, where it's disappeared to.
Right.
But it was a struggle. It was to get gigs elsewhere. Sometimes it was maybe entering a competition. Occasionally, you may have to pay to play and that sort of thing. And you
Or you
slogged
have to
away
play
and
all
you
covers.
tried,
Yeah.
you know. And if you managed to sell some demos, I mean, I got a demo here. So this was one of the bands I was in called The Air Turned to Acid. And this was our first. So I took that picture. This is inside a wind tunnel, and these are
Okay.
the vanes where the wind goes through. And actually, this is the fan that used to blow. If I can get it open. So this fan,
Yeah.
and you know, this is all printed by us. So it's just a label on a CD that we stuck on ourselves, and that kind of thing. So self done, and we sold a few of these. So I'm sure there's a handful of people out there that have them, and that's it. It does seem that, I don't know, maybe word of mouth, like you said. If
Oh yeah.
someone mentions there's a party somewhere and
Yeah.
you invite 50 people, you ended up with 300. So word of mouth goes a long way for you over there.
So yeah, because actually Metallica, when they were still in the Bay Area, they're in you know like off Oakland, San Francisco, before they went to New York and acquiring Dave Mustaine and shit like that. They were there, and what they would do is they made their demo there, and and they would you know it was the early version of Kill 'Em All, you know, Metal Up Your Ass.
Yeah.
Well, they did a few of them, and they didn't have enough money to make a lot of them, so they'd make just a few, and they would to get people to go up to the stage to begin with, they would entice them with like the free record, you know what I mean? And they would go up there, and then they would keep them there, and then they ended up getting a little bit more money, and then they ended up put them on tapes or whatever, and they would give them tapes out there, knowing that if it was good enough, people liked enough, they'd make copies of it, and then they, you know, it wouldn't sound great, but at least their music would be out there. And they ended up, you know, getting such a good following over there that they was able to move on to great management over in New York. So I mean, it is hard. It's the hardest thing in the world, especially many years ago. It's luck, it's perseverance, it's passion, it's all that. You have to have every bit of that. Uh, good luck and getting the right group of guys together you can count on. That God, it's so hard. You so many people say, "Yeah, I'm serious. Yeah, I'm serious. Yeah, I'm serious." But then you know, they don't even want to show up there. And you got to practice all the time. You can't fuck around. You can't go in front of a crowd of people sounding half-assed. I mean, you got to sound good. You got to jam all the time, and you know relatively quickly who you have in your band and how long you want to keep it. I mean, you really do. And what's sad is a lot of people that play really well, and some of the best musicians, some of the best writers, don't have any heart, any passion, and that was some of the problem. There's 100 different things that can go wrong with you actually getting somewhere in music.
So obviously, in the UK, I mean, I was never really part of it because it was a little bit before me. But in the 80s, when music started to get more extreme, there was tape trading. Now, obviously, Shane Emery, bass player from Napalm Death, used to do that. And that's how, in a way, that Jess Pintado and Mitch Harris got in, and Danny Herrera got in the band, you know. So a British band, but with Americans in it. And so you start to get this melding of the two worlds. And you know, Napalm Death are one of my favorite bands. And I think I totally respect the original sort of Justin Broderick lineup, because obviously Shane wasn't even the original lineup. He was only on the B side of Scum,
Right.
and that sort of thing. But when the three Americans joined, it just took on a whole new level. And of course, they got to do their Florida death metal album, Harmony Corruption, and that kind of thing. See, I guess also having those scenes, you got the LA scene, you got the Florida scene, and the different kinds of music as well. And you know, with Scott Burns coming out and producing all those bands, Death and Sepultura and Deicide, and I know Jim Morrison did Morbid Angel and that kind of stuff. So all those Floridian death metal bands, a whole sort of genre in itself. There isn't really anything like that here, because I think because it's so small as a country. I think you clearly get different flavors. You know, you'll have your London bands. I mean, let's go out the metal world for a little bit. Look at you know, the Liverpool and the Beatles, and then Manchester and Oasis. Okay, so Oasis are kind of a reincarnation of the Beatles, if you see what I mean. But so you've got those styles, but in the rock and metal world, I guess we were pulling from the rest of the world. The rest of the world was our cauldron. And okay, so we had Maiden and Priest, and obviously with Zeppelin, Deep Purple, and all those British bands, we sort of had that. So it's really kind of interesting to me. A small country like ours, and then a massive country like the US, and just the sheer difference. And then of course you go to Europe, and you get your melodic death metal and your black metal, and things start and get different again, don't they?
Yeah, you get a lot of your German bands and a lot of those. Some of the heavies too. They're the ones that did a lot of the death metal and what they call the black, what there was the black metal, what they called it. I think it's weird for a country as small as your guys. You guys put out some of the best music that's ever been made. I mean, you have from all the way to, you know what I mean, to the 60s and even the late 50s and early 60s. All the way, I mean, look at, for instance, with Eric Clapton and Jeff Beck and Jimmy Page and the Yardbirds. You know what I mean? They spawned off to make several different great bands. You know what I mean? Throughout history, some of the best that's ever been, you know, best ever. So yeah, and in a way, those bands spawned off because, I mean, look, Page went and formed Zeppelin, and then you got, you know, Clapton. He did a bunch of different shit. Jeff Beck pretty much, you know, he played, but he you know, Jeff Beck really didn't need a lot of people. Did he? He could pretty much just, you know, those inspired, put together at the same time. The Who was coming together. You know what I mean? And then that spawned off shit like you know, like Sabbath's biggest influence is the Beatles. I mean, you wouldn't think it would be, but it is. You know,
you can hear it.
A lot of people's influence.
You can hear it. So
yeah,
obviously you mentioned Birmingham and Black Sabbath, and of course tonight is the last ever Black Sabbath show with Ozzy Osbourne in Birmingham.
Is it tonight?
And, yeah, you know, so the show's been going on all day. It started with Mastodon, and it's streaming on somewhere. But I would love to be able to have paid to view it. Bit skinny at the moment, so. But it's, you know, the epicenter of our world starts in Birmingham.
Yes.
And currently, right as we are speaking now, well, maybe not quite. Well, no, they may be on stage at the moment. You know, this massive event of celebrating Black Sabbath and the world of heavy metal is going on. And
I'm so glad I got to see them in Ozfest. The year I went to Ozfest, they had Ozzy, and then it had Ozzy and Black Sabbath. First set was going to be Ozzy. It was going to be Ozzy with Sabbath, and then Ozzy was going to do his solo, like a solo show afterwards. So he did back to back. That was one of the best Ozfest too, because that was early Disturbed, Papa Roach, Marilyn Manson was there, Slipknot was there. It was loaded. It was very chill. I was glad that I was able to see them because they sounded so good. And
I
this
saw
first time,
the same Ozfest. That was 1998.
no, I thought
Or was
that
that
was
2000?
2001.
Yeah,
2001, I think.
2000. Yeah, because 2000 was when Disturbed. Yeah, so I saw the same Ozfest, but at Milton Keynes.
Good off loaded.
Mm.
Johnny Poole, the original singer, was doing small stage.
So it thankfully, so the first time I went to Ozfest in 1998, the Black Sabbath lineup was the original. So Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, Bill Ward, and Ozzy Osbourne. The second time when I saw them, it was Vinny Appice or whatever. How do you pronounce his name?
Oh, Vinny,
on drums. I think Bill Ward wasn't very well.
A piece, I do believe is how it's pronounced.
A piece, right? Yeah, I've heard so many different versions of it, but so I've seen two versions of Black Sabbath, and I've got into them late. I didn't actually get into heavy metal until 1992, which is when I got into my first band. So when I was 16, and Iron Maiden was my route in. I was already into Guns N' Roses and Queen, and of course Queen do anything from pop to heavy metal, and Guns N' Roses were sort of hard rock heavy metal.
They didn't do anything twice, did they? Queen didn't. They didn't do anything twice.
Oh yeah. Queen just I mean,
play anything.
Obviously they had influence from the Beatles. You can hear it in there. There's influence from Elvis in there. They just evolved, didn't they, constantly? But it's pretty cool to say I'm a Brit and be part of the home of our world that we inhabit in the metal world, and all those great bands. But equally, it's awesome to witness what's come out of America. So one of the biggest death metal bands, you got Obituary and Cannibal Corpse, and Deicide, Morbid Angel, and that kind of stuff. But then you got new genres come out, like Korn starting, new metal with Linkin Park and other such bands, and you got Type O Negative taking things on a completely different. There's a lot of Beatles in Type O Negative, isn't there?
Danzig. I know people think he's a dick, but I love Danzig's music, man. Danzig's got some really good shit.
I've never actually listened to them.
Really? Oh man. Because of course that he was the front man to Misfits. So and he got a lot of shit from the punk rock community because he was going to do metal because Danzig his solo man didn't sound anything punk, yet the Misfits sounded very punk. So and punk is weird like that. Of course, something about punk too because there's a lot of punk from England as well. So it's like you got one of my favorites from there, the Pistols. So
yeah.
When he stopped doing that, and his very first album was the first Danzig album, when he had Mother and all them on it. It didn't sound anything like punk, and the punk people gave him all kinds.
Right. I think we might have a few questions. Let's just say hi to a few people. So obviously Cheekstar and Gary Hedge.
Hey guys.
Dawn of the Dead 84. Hello, dude. Dave Millage from Canada is one of my big followers. So Dave said, you must thank me for introducing him to Zombie and Dog Soldiers. Do you know Dog Soldiers?
Dog Soldiers, oh yeah. That's probably the best. I'd say it's the best of the werewolf films that is underrated. Like a lot of people still never even heard of it. It is so underrated, but it's still so good and done with a low budget. But it doesn't look low budget. You know what I mean?
No, they spent the money in the right place, didn't they?
Exactly. That's what I always say. You got to put your money in the right place.
Yeah. So Mike from Mike's DVDs and Blu-ray collection. So Dave says, bit tough to hear. Might be the fan blowing. Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It's all right. It's all right.
I want to make it to where you can hear me a little bit better for a little while.
So is it still a grind? I know some musicians here, they are very good. They work extremely hard and get nothing back. Nothing. It's sad to see how difficult music is. Yes, Dave. Basically, you're starting at zero and you're going less than zero the further you get because you're literally getting nothing back. I mean, so as I said, The Grudge have their album on Spotify. They've sold merch. You know, they sold these. These are all sold out. They sold the CDs. So I only got this copy because it was on eBay. I joined the band and I wanted a copy. And the Davey who set up the band, he said, "Oh, he just looked and found one on eBay." So I went and brought it. But you just sort of, you may recoup your money. You may end up with a little pot that will help you do maybe more merchandise and that kind of stuff. I mean, you know, so we're searching for a singer at the moment, and I'm hoping that once we get that done, we can get back on track with the recording of album number 2. And then who knows what will happen. I don't want to speculate. It's not going to make us rock stars because there's millions of other bands doing it and they're equally as good. So it's about who can shout the loudest, isn't it? Really.
Some of the best bands were that's ever been have still never been heard by anybody really, and that's a fact. The problem now here with the U.S. when I came up here in the United States, the biggest problem here in the United States in the late '80s was every band by that point it had been thinned out so bad by poser band and all these bands that just wanted to do it just to make money, and to where you went, especially in the actual heavy metal hard rock area. I'm not talking about the heavy shit. I'm talking about the rock like Guns N' Roses, Motley Crue, and all that. Those bands have become so poserish, and they had sucked it so dry that when Nirvana and them came along, that's why they were so easy to sweep them out the door and take it over. Because people wanted something real. And by the time I was able to actually get in there and start really getting serious about it, not only did I had personal things going on and I was having babies, but my kind of music, it was just hitting that point in the early '90s where hard rock and heavy metal became a joke.
Yeah, totally. It's I mean, so the underground scene here anyway, I missed it sort of thing. When I got into heavy metal, it was only sort of metal, and Slayer was probably the hardest thing I got into. Then I heard Sepultura, and at first I didn't like it. So I remember it being 1994, and the Monsters of Rock Festival from Donington was being aired on the radio, and I was ready with a cassette tape to record Pantera, because I'd heard them. I'd heard Cowboys from Hell, and
Texas.
and I loved his singing, and it wasn't too aggressive vocally. But when I heard Sepultura, I thought, well, I'll give him a listen. It's not going to kill me, is it? And I didn't like the vocals. I was like, oh, I don't like this. But then as time went by, I started to like heavier and heavier guitar. Then I got into Napalm Death, and then it sort of snowballed from there. And I kind of left the thrash scene alone. I like your Testament and Slayer, sort of like Anthrax, but all those other bands like Nuclear Assault and that kind of stuff, they're not for me.
Right.
So I went down the Cannibal Corpse, Deicide, and then newer bands like Decapitated and even Vile, and stuff like that. And when I got into the Elephant Asylum, that introduced me to the sludge side of the things, Neurosis, Corrosion of Conformity, and the sludge, the stoner, the sort of the mix and that kind of thing.
Right.
So I started to expand my horizons that way. So I just got deeper and deeper underground, I suppose, and left obviously stayed with Maiden because they're my favorite band. But just didn't explore any of those bigger bands. So going to the festivals, going to Bloodstock or Monsters of Rock, and then Download and Ozfest, and seeing bands like Disturbed. I'd never heard of them before, but they headlined the second stage, and they blew me away. I was like, "Wow, this is amazing." I got into Mudvayne and Skin Lab and even Cold Chamber and stuff like that.
Well, as a matter of fact, from where you're from, what do you think of like Motorhead?
Motorhead. Bizarrely, I was not keen on Lemmy's voice. I need to explore them because I totally appreciate their patch of their neck of the woods, if you see what I mean. I think Ace of Spades got thrown around everywhere, and every band was covering it, and I think I got sick of it, so I was sort of put off. But I've only recently really been getting into Sabbath and stuff like that, so I'm backtracking now and exploring these older bands that most of the people around me grew up with. Their dads were into it and that kind of stuff. And
have you heard of Overkill?
Yeah, I think I might have seen them. That's the good thing about going to shows is that sometimes you'll see bands. Like I saw Creator fairly recently when it was at the Anthrax co-headline with Creator Anthrax co-headline, and they had Testament support. I think there was another band, can't remember, but
I love his voice, Chuck Billy. I always liked his voice. His voice was deep, but you could tell he had a lot of talent. That dude could sing. Chuck Billy could.
That was what was cool. Was I got into them on the Low album, so where he dropped his voice. When I went back to the early stuff, Practice What You Preach, and
exactly.
I was like, I'm not sure. And I think that's partly why I didn't like the thrash metal, because it was higher vocals.
Yeah.
And although I liked Bruce's voice, I think it's a frequency thing. Certain frequencies I don't like. I had to get used to Ozzy's voice. I had to get used to Rob Halford's voice. But what amazing voices. So yeah, it's all sorts of things. But yeah, what else have people been saying?
Bruce Dickinson is my favorite heavy metal singer of all time.
I tell you what. So we went last Saturday to see them in London.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
and it took a couple of songs for his voice to warm up. Now, no doubt he would have warmed up backstage, but he did sound a little bit ropey. And they opened up with Murders in the Rue Morgue. And then they went into Rothschild. But then suddenly they finished the set and they come out and do the encore to Aces High. He nailed it like he was doing the album.
Look, he's getting up there in age too. So I mean, his latest solo project is damn good.
I need to listen to that.
It's fucking good, man. All the songs are on YouTube. Check it out, man. Listen to After Love Ragnarok, Rain on the Graves. Oh man, I like every song on it. I have the double LP.
Yeah. So,
considering his age and the type of singing he does, man, he's kicking ass. You know what I mean? It's amazing.
So I was, one year I was at the O2 watching them. I forget which tour it was. My wife and I have been there the last few years watching Maiden. But anyway, we were next to the mixing desk area, and I suddenly looked over and there was Rob Smallwood. And he came over, and I it was loud because there's obviously music going on, but I spoke to him, and he was explaining about Bruce's voice. This was post cancer, so this was after Book of Souls, and so it must have been the Shinjitsu, or maybe the some whatever tour it was. And he said, they got everything set up, ready for the new tour. They got all the presets on the desk because that's how they do it these days. It's just program everything and they don't need to make any adjustments. And he said Bruce started singing and they had to turn it down. He was louder than he was before his cancer. So yeah, that's quite amazing.
I mean, throat cancer of all things, for him to bring that voice back, you know what I mean? Most people can't maintain that voice into their 40s or 50s, let alone their 70s,
Yeah, no, he's extremely very lucky. So Dave also says, all of whom were inspired by Americans: Chuck Berry, Elvis, and Bob Dylan. Said he'd already loved Kevin McKidd from Rome, so Dog Soldiers is a gas love. Again, I've got to give props. Trev, you told me about to go and see Iron Maiden. Yes, I did. I persuaded him to take his daughter to see Iron Maiden, and he said he loved it. He says, do you recall the moment Maiden will make Springsteen look like a schoolboy? Okay, someone made a comment clearly that I don't know. I mean, Springsteen is clearly a big American idol and very respected by the world and done a lot of great music. So outside of the metal world, briefly, what's your go-to?
Oh man, it's weird. I grew up of course, as a kid, it was Kiss with the original Four lineup. I'm a huge Ace Frehley fan. I hated shit when they started changing up people and they took off the makeup and they sounded gay as fuck forever. I mean, just lame, man. These motherfuckers did, and I don't mean gay as far, and I mean gay.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah. Lame.
And then they had a brief reunion, and then it was right back to shitty again. But after that, I just went through the gambit of rock and heavy metal bands. But other than that, I am a big Journey fan. That is my favorite male vocalist of all time, is Steve Perry. There was one point where I listened to a little bit of R&B. I actually, believe it or not, with my heavy metal and everything, and you may not guess it or I may not look like it, but I'm still, to this day, I'm an avid ballad fan. I love a good ballad.
Oh yeah.
So Asia had a good album way back in the day. I like a lot of the early '80s stuff. I thought the English stuff from the early '80s was good. As far as that sort of pop, the pop then and the pop now, you can't even put it, you know what I mean? Because it didn't come off poppy. Especially that from England. The early '80s the late '70s, early '80s was so great from England, man, because every facet, every genre of music was good one way or another. Yeah. They just were. Let me see. I like a lot of Jefferson Airplane. I like them. Janis Joplin. I even like some Chicago for a while. I'm a big Lionel Richie fan. Yet I didn't like the Commodores. Go figure that. Bryan Adams, I like a couple of his first albums. So I like a lot of shit, man. Fleetwood Mac and Stevie Nicks. I love Stevie Nicks. Love the original Heart, the 1970s Heart.
Yeah.
And Wilson's one of the best female vocalists to ever live. So.
Wasn't it? I might be getting mixed up with Starship, or was it Heart? Was it one of their big songs that the guitarist or the non-lead female sung the song, and she had a cold? And when they thought, well, we'll just lay down your vocals, even though you got a cold, and we'll redo it later on. When they went to redo it, she didn't sound as good. So they kept the original version that she did with the cold. It's one of their massive songs.
Yeah, that was. I'm pretty sure that was Heart. Yeah, because you got Ann and Nancy Wilson, Yeah. Nancy usually plays the guitar. She was the one that was married to Crow, Cameron Crowe, that did Fast Life Ridgemont High. She's in that in the car in that, and she's the blonde, and you got the darker headed one, and she was the one that was the lead singer most of the time. But I'm not sure which song you're talking about with that. That's a cool story.
Yeah, I can't remember. It was a ballad. It was one of their big ballads.
In the 80s.
Yeah, I can't quite remember. So yeah, anyone watching, if you've got any questions, whether it's about music or film, because we love films, we love horror films, but we love other films as well, please ask us the questions. So what else is Dave saying? I swear though, the triple bill in the early 90s, Blind Melon, followed by Pearl Jam, then Neil Young, Crazy Horse. Neil blew them both away. Well, yeah. It was heavy. Then he also says,
"Did you care for the Seattle scene at all?" I didn't like her, but I did like some Pearl Jam. I like Soundgarden a lot, and I loved Alice in Chains.
Yeah, I did get into it a little bit. I stopped following Pearl Jam some years ago. It's so hard to follow all these different things. Alice in Chains, again, I wasn't overly keen on, not the sound of Lane's voice, but the way he moved it up and down. The Faceless album, I find he's overdoing it. When you get to Dirt, it's just a little bit more subdued, and it's like, I really like that.
Down the Hole is fantastic. In my opinion, that's their best song. Down the Hole is.
Yeah. And then you've got Soundgarden. I didn't like Chris's voice at first, and this does my head in, because I mean, I could listen to it all now, but I sort of missed out going through it with everyone else. When he did what's the James Bond song he did? Something about a name, from the Casino Royale film. And watching that film in the cinema and then hearing Chris Cornell singing over the end credits, I was really proud, because, you know, he's from the metal world, essentially. Okay, grunge. You know, I don't want people hating me at this, but essentially he's from our world, and he's in a big time movie singing his heart out. And I think I got more of a respect for him. And, you know, sadly, when he passes, and it's like, oh, now I can listen to the music, I like the music, sort of thing. So I've kind of missed out. I never did Nirvana. I never liked that.
Me either.
The thing was, the first I heard, I think, was when he died. Kurt Cobain died, and in Kerrang and Metal Hammer, that was every week. It was every month. It was Kurt Cobain. Something about Kurt Cobain all the time, and I was like, I don't want to know. He's dead. Leave him.
They just kept comparing him to John Lennon. It's like, really? Come the fuck on, dude. Really?
Oh,
let's be real. I mean, come the fuck on, John Lennon. Come on, man.
Yeah.
It's like they wanted another John Lennon so bad, or another Jim Morrison so bad. You know, they like to say that you know, if you took John Lennon, you know, and Jim Morrison and put them together, that you would have Kurt Cobain. It's like, no, man. Neither one, no.
Now, Jim Morrison, I really got my most exposure to the Doors was from the film, the Val Kilmer film.
Yeah.
And the first band I was in, the singer was into the Doors, and he idolized Jim. And so obviously, what's the song with the Hammond organ at the beginning?
Is People Are Strange, or no? Let me People Are Strange.
One of whichever one that is. And there's a bit in the film when they're having a practice, and three of them, the drummer, the bassist, and Jim, they go outside. But in the background, you can hear the keyboard player messing around, and then suddenly he plays that melody, and it's like, oh, what a moment! Because you know what it's like in a rehearsal room. when
Oh,
it just happens and the fireworks go, and it makes you sit up and makes you listen. I've got that film on 4K, and I need to watch it again because it's a brilliant film.
Favorite part of the process, putting the songs together, man. Where the guitar player come in and start playing a riff, because none of us read music. Rock people, we just don't read music for the most part. The friend of mine, Charlotte, come in and start playing a guitar lick. The drummer would start kicking in with a beat or whatever, and if it was working, it was grooving. I would grab the pad or whatever, and I'd start writing down a little bit or whatever. They keep jamming, and I'd tell them, keep going. They keep playing that shit. Next thing you know, I'm throwing that shit in. And if the vibe's happening, by the end of the day, you got a couple of new, really good kick-ass songs. I love that. That's what made me fall in love with it.
Yeah,
it's anything technical. It's not brain surgery. It's not rocket science. It's just a groove, man. And if you all love it, and you're all into it,
the stars align, don't they?
Hell yes, lightning in a bottle, man. I miss that.
So in the Elephant Asylum, we had a song called the oh shit, it's just gone out of my head. Tears and Philosophy. And it started from that exact thing. The guitarist just played a riff, and I came in. The other guitarist was good enough that he was able to join in, essentially pick up what he was doing by listening to the other guitarist, and we jammed a whole song straight off. And it was one of our main staple songs in the set. It was such a brilliant song to play.
Yeah.
I even put I'd been to drum college back in 1999, and so this was 2004, and so I'd been playing all sorts of different stuff. I'd been introduced to how to play reggae, blues, jazz, drum and bass, all sorts of stuff, because and there was a part in it that I did on the hi-hat, and I even put a reggae thing in it, not something that would make you think, oh, that's reggae, that's a reggae pattern, but the technique I threw in there was a reggae technique, and I was like, I love that about our kind of music. So yeah, it was Light My Fire from the Doors.
Yeah, Light My Fire. Yeah. You talk about the reggae being thrown in there. Neil Peart used to do that kind of shit all the time, because he was influenced by many different kinds of music.
See, that's another band. Geddy's voice. Now on the first album, he's a bit more raucous, isn't he?
Yeah.
But then he once Rush became Rush, I don't like it.
Really?
Yeah, it's so. A while ago, my neighbour, the guy who lives below me, because I'm in an upstairs flat, he passed away, and he was a metalhead as well. So we had loads of conversations about all sorts of things.
Right.
Anyway, I inherited his CD collection. His nephew didn't know what to do with it. I said, well, I still collect CDs. And he said, well, you can have it then. And so I've got most of Rush's entire CD catalogue, most of Black Sabbath catalogue. And so I tried listening to Rush, because obviously I know and respect Neil's drumming. I was sad when he passed away and all this, that, and the other. I remember seeing his poster on the wall in the drum shop I used to go to, and like, wow, that's amazing. But again, I think because Tom Sawyer was like all I would hear on the radio, and just got sick of it. So I need to explore them by myself, listen to the albums as everyone else did as they came out, and see what I like. Because the first album is the only one I've listened to so far. The first song was great. I think the second one was great. Then there was a couple that just kind of went on really long and just did their thing, and I was like, no, I lost interest. But
they had a concept album called 2112, and it's pretty much, it's only like one side. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of songs on it, but the very first song off that's called The Temples of Ceres, and it's badass. But they started doing a lot of concept shit like that, kind of like Pink Floyd. Now, I love Pink Floyd. but I like them better than I do Rush, actually. But yeah, they started playing around and doing a lot of experimenting. Rush did, but to me, two of their best songs is "Spirit of the Radio" and "Limelight." Limelight is about the music, and it's about putting music together.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
that's all right. So we got Rick G has just joined us. Hello, Rick. So the surviving members of the Doors were not happy with Oliver Stone. He ignored their inputs as consultants. They like Val Kilmer though. That really sucks when that happens. A filmmaker, they just kind of get inside their own head and they want to do it their way, and they kind of miss the picture. They kind of so to ignore the actual people that they're making the film about, I think is silly.
He's cocky. Oliver Stone has always been cocky in that way. He doesn't like a lot of people fucking around with his vision and what he's doing, even if it's people that were there. You know what I mean? That's how cocky he is about it.
Yeah. I mean, okay, there's an element of me that is clearly a bit of a control freak. And but I've as I've grown up and I've learnt, I've got to accept other people's input. I've got to be prepared to be wrong and all this, that, and the other. So yeah, it does seem weird. So what's your favorite film?
Oh shit! Oh man! Oh my god! Where do I start with that? Shit, from any genre. Oh my god! From any genre. Oh my god! You okay? Well, let me. I'll just start with the horror then. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original one. The original 1978 Halloween. I love Zombie from Fulci. The original Night of the Living Dead. You just go on and on, man. There's so much. I also love a lot of Argento. In my opinion, from 1971 to 1987, Argento didn't make a bad film. All were great. And then you go to other things. I love Almost Famous. I think Almost Famous is one of the greatest films ever made. It's about the music and all that kind of stuff. And I love that movie, man.
Right.
Something about shit. There's of Mice and Men from way back in the day. Shit, dude. I can give you a favorite. If I tried to give when I try to give you one favorite, I have to tell you 20 titles. You know what I mean? Because I love that many that much.
Oh, of course. I mean, so what about non-horror? What about something mainstream like Singing in the Rain? What about something like that?
Well, that's where I got the Almost Famous from. And then of course you got let me see, I'm trying to think here because I have to look around. Let me see here to help get. Have you ever seen Possession from 1981? It's great. Sam Neill.
No.
Of course, you got the original Jaws. It's I'm sure you've seen the cover of it before. It's this film.
Oh yeah, no. I should be watching that soon with another. I've got a mate coming over, and we've decided that's what we're going to watch.
I like Tarantino a lot. I like Brian De Palma's films. Shit, let me see. Yeah, I'm big. I'm big into Tarantino. Then you got show where stuff from like back in the. I love the original Rocky. The first two Rocky films I adore.
Yeah, they're great films.
I like Martin Scorsese. I love the first two Godfather films. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
After Hours was a bit of a surprise. I watched it around another YouTube channel, Movie Collector, John Clancy. I went and visited him, and he got the 4K, the Criterion from After Hours, and it's weird because it took me a while to realize he was the dude from American Werewolf in London.
Yeah. We're talking about werewolf films. What is your favorite werewolf film?
horror film. I would.
Are you a Howling guy or an American Werewolf in London guy?
No, definitely. I think American Werewolf in London. Although Dog Soldiers, there's something about that that's a bit different.
Yes.
But no, American. I mean, with the special effects, wow. They
I
just
love the horror of the Howling. I love the horror of the Howling. But when he's turning, that is such a scary part. That death's head grin, man, is just so terrifying. You know, when Eddie's turning.
right. There's is it in Company of Wolves?
Yeah, the Company of Wolves.
Yeah, that was pretty good. It's a bit sort of Red Riding Hood type thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, Wolfman. I mean, going back to the old Universal monster. I mean,
yeah,
they're the originals, and even Guillermo's version, I really like that with Benicio del Toro. But then you got things like I know it's a bit more mainstream, but Van Helsing, and just how handsome that werewolf looked, sort of thing. It's like, hang on, this is a werewolf, but it's strikingly, yeah. So, but that's, as you say, there's so many different facets to these things. It's hard to just pick one.
Yeah.
But for me, for non-horror, it's got to be Superman. Christopher Reeve, just I feel like a kid when I watch that film. My heart fills up with just warmth and love and respect, because that character, the man playing him, just stood for everything that I believe in, about right in the world and about treating people properly and just having the power to do so. And even Henry Cavill's version, you know, when someone else comes along and does your favorite thing, you're like, what's this going to be like? But I felt the same. He sat in that the same. I got the same feeling. But I won't watch this new one because there's just something to me that just doesn't sit right. And I'm sure it'll be a great film, and I'm sure it will do well. But so yeah, for me, Superman, massive Star Wars fan.
All but the sequel trilogy. I didn't like the sequel trilogy. I've always loved the prequel trilogy. I never understood why people didn't like it, why they gave it shit. I love the prequel trilogy.
Great films.
I like them as much as I do the original three. I hate to say, you know, I get a lot of people going, "What?" when it's, but I like the prequel trilogy just as much as the original trilogy. I fucking love them. I thought they did a great job with them. A lot of the most iconic characters are from the prequel trilogy. Look, you got Mace Windu, Darth Maul, fucking Qui-Gon Jinn. I mean, on and on. You got a lot of great ones in there, man. You got Yoda in episode 2 fighting. I remember when he walks in, you know, it's after he chops off Anakin's arm and then kicks Obi-Wan's ass, and they're both on top of each other. And then you hear, and you turn around and look at fucking Yoda coming in with his cane, and he leaves
hilarious.
The cane. It's like, just. I remember we sit at the theater, me and my girlfriend at the time. We sit at the theater. As soon as Yoda held his hand like that, and the lightsaber with his hand, I said, "Oh hell!" Because no one had ever seen Yoda fight before.
No.
He's all over the place. Dooku's like, "God damn!" He took off running. He said, "Fuck this shit."
He was a fucking badass. That was amazing. And yes, it was hilarious the way he waddled off after. He was like,
and he bounced all over the place. And after the fight was over, he went back to his cane. And he's limping again. It was just great. Well, he's like 8 years old. But when that force was going to him, he didn't give him two shits.
No. I mean, to me, Revenge of the Sith is the darkest film out of the whole lot. Because when Anakin's having those nightmares, I was like, wow. I was in the cinema thinking, this is really dark. This is nightmare stuff kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, oh Christ, we've had so many films. I'm not so much into British films. We've done some amazing films. We're more music than we are films. But having said that, I think the British film industry is the best, because actually most of those big films, Star Wars, are made here in the UK. Partly because the sound stages in the US weren't big enough, which is a bit bizarre thing to say when the country's so big. But When you get films like Event Horizon, made here, Alien,
Event Horizon is a good one.
made here, literally down the road from me. I'm 10 minutes away from Pinewood Studios. So you know, the Bond films, I mean, essentially they're British. They're made by Americans because Cubby Broccoli and the other one, you know, it's American backed,
Right.
but it's British crew that made them. And you know what fantastic films.
Like
but,
First Alien. First Alien was made over there, you know?
Yeah, that's what I meant. Alien, yeah. And
Great, yeah.
Well, so was Aliens, but they both were, I think.
Yeah, because Cameron pretty much adopted Scott's film crew. He got and they didn't like him much. They didn't respect him.
No.
You know, they just said, you know, this is a you know, at that point he was a Terminator guy. As far as all that, you mean the Terminator guy is going to do the sequel? Where's Ripley?
But what a fantastic film Terminator is.
Oh God,
you know,
yeah.
It's an out and out sci-fi, but it's also an out and out slasher.
It is. Are you a big slasher fan?
Oh yeah, yeah.
What's your favorite slasher like besides all the big 3 or 4, all that kind of stuff? Well, first of all, I don't consider Chainsaw Massacre, Black Christmas, or the first Halloween slashers. I just or Nightmare on Elm Street. I don't consider them slashers. To me, a slasher is Sleepaway Camp. It's The Burning. You know what I mean? Shit like that.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it's the slashing with a knife. I mean, Texas Chainsaw is a genre in its own. That's got to be one of my favorite. But for a slasher film, I might need to actually look at some because it's got so many.
Oh my God! Yeah.
In the collection, so many in the collection.
Like I was saying, Summer Party Massacre, Sleepaway Camp 2, of course, is my favorite. Is the first Sleepaway Camp, but I got to admit, the Sleepaway Camp 2 is an absolute blast. Pamela Springsteen is just batshit crazy, and I love it. The Burning, you can't forget about The Burning. Like I was saying, the original My Bloody Valentine.
Yeah. I finally tracked that down. Well, no, I got the 4K when it came out, and I got the remake because a lot of the time,
it's not bad.
I really like the remakes, but only because they got the modern sound,
Right.
and the modern look. I love the aesthetics that especially in the 2000s with the color grading and stuff that they do. That's what I really liked. But so I actually hold both Texas Chainsaws almost equal. The 74 one always is going to win because it was the first. And when I watch it, I imagine myself in the cinema in 1974, not having seen anything like it prior, and I can imagine being shit scared.
The greatest Final Girl performance of all time.
Yeah. I mean, look at Evil Dead as well. That whole camera movement through the woods before we even see anything. That's just creepy as hell.
That's one of the best remakes of all time, in my opinion. One of that, The Fly, the 78 Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and Carpenter's The Thing.
Yeah,
you know, that's
exactly.
one of the best remakes.
Yeah, they're phenomenal. But slashes. Oh, come on, let's get looking. Got to give you an answer somehow.
Well, I mean, you know, so some of the best ones of those are ones that aren't really well known. You got Just Before Dawn. You know, you got Humongous. You got shit like Curtains. You know,
Just Before Dawn is really good. The Forest, I think, is pretty good too. You know that one?
Different. Yes, it's very unique. Yeah.
There's so I got a little series I need to carry on with it actually, called the YouTube Horrors. Now, when I was unemployed about 10 years ago, I just spent every evening, or not every evening, I would go to bed and I'd watch a horror film on my phone. And I gave them a score each time, and just so that in the future, if I decided to buy them, the score would let me know whether to buy them or not. And The Forest was the first one I watched. Now, it was either an edited version, like a cut version on YouTube that I saw, or I may have fallen asleep, because I did fall asleep a lot trying to watch these things.
yeah.
But anyway, I got the Code Red limited edition, and I watched it, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really, really good film. So Jose has just joined us. So hello, Jose. He says, good afternoon, Trevor. I'm a bit late to the party. Well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And have to dip out soon, but he wanted to show and say hi. So yeah, hi, Jose.
Thanks, man.
Rick G says Leatherface Chainsaw Massacre sequel that had a Death Angel soundtrack was a treat. Oh wow, yeah. Not a great movie, but fun soundtrack. Yeah, that's the cool thing about metal, is that it really works well with horror films.
It does, man. It does. I mean, like, look at the band Lost Rocket. They also did a song for one of the Chainsaw movies.
Right.
As far as slashers go, have you seen a movie called Girl House?
No.
That's a good slasher. I'd recommend it. Girl House. There's also have you seen Laid to Rest?
Nope.
With Combs, it's got a killer named Combs Skull in it. There's and another one I don't consider a slasher, but I think is a great early '80s horror film is Maniac with Joe Spinell. The remake is awesome too.
Yeah, that's a very good film. Yeah. So another good remake, House of Wax.
Yeah. Do you like the remake to Last House on the Left?
I did. I think it's better than the original. I mean,
I love the original, and I think it's because David Hess is just, they are so dastardly. You feel like there's somebody standing there with a camera watching these. You know, I think the problem that a lot of people have with the original Last House on the Left is the goofier scenes. But Wes Craven did that on purpose. He wanted to make things a little lighter here and there. He got a little carried away with it, but I think it's an absolute masterpiece. The original is.
You can almost imagine shaky cam being invented because the way David Hess and how scary they were just so unhinged, weren't they?
He just looked like somebody that would do some shit like that. David Hess did. The play was he was a great musician, and he was a hell of a nice guy.
Yeah. So the good thing about the original is that, you know, one, it's video nasty, and two, it's grittiness. It's early filmmaking. This is what I'm talking about filmmakers coming up, and so this is, you know, one of his first big films, or his first feature or whatever. But then so the twist at the end happens really late on, which is great. But what I liked about the remake was how quickly the twist happened, and that kind of took you into a different film, if you see what I mean. It became less about all the stuff that they were doing and more about what was happening to them. And I really like that. So that it's just as hard hitting as well. You know, the infamous scene that both films have, I guess, are hard to watch.
That's
same
actually done on your grave. You know what I mean? The remake of Last House on Your Left, that assault scene is much rougher than the original.
Yeah.
That it goes on for several seconds or minutes or whatever. Now, I think it may be the only remake that I prefer over the original is I Spit on Your Grave. I do prefer that one over the original.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
It's a better movie.
Yeah.
It's better acting.
Yeah, again, a lot of these horror films, as we talked about, actors in their early days, and you could see the ones that were paying attention to what they were doing. You could see the ones that knew how to act, but then you could see the ones that were just kind of, they've been roped into it somehow, like their mates said, come and do it, and they were just part of the furniture sort of thing. But we've had, like, as I said, we've had some amazing people come out of it. What about House by the Edge of the Park?
That was Deodato. That was about 6 months before he got put in jail because he was accused of murdering the actors in Cannibal Holocaust. Because he did it so well that he thought those people were actually killed, you know what I mean, and got put in jail, and they had to have the actors and people come there to show that they were alive to get him out of jail.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, he made that about 6 months before he got put in jail for that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Cannibal Holocaust, especially the VHS days, is because how gritty it looked. You couldn't tell if it was real or not. You know, it was made to look like a documentary, so that's why it works so well. And how they did some of those special effects, I don't know, but
Right.
I mean,
yeah. She was sitting on it, and then the other part she had, it was a real light piece, and she was carrying it. You know, it's like it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. I don't really know what my favorite slasher is as such, because even though I got the 88 slasher collection, not all of them are strictly classed as slashers. They just seem to have got lumped in there. I mean, I Know What You Did Last Summer films were pretty good. The Wrong Turn, I've seen the Wrong Turn remake. That was really good.
Yeah, I enjoyed that too. It's a completely different thing, and most people don't like that, but I actually enjoyed it. I love the fact it was completely different. It had nothing to do with, you know what I mean? It was a completely different thing. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I really like Driving Massacre.
Yeah. What about Toolbox?
Toolbox Murders.
Yeah,
that's really low budget, cool film. I really like Nail Gun Massacre.
Yeah, that's funny. Not many people do. Someone else that I talk to a lot that has a channel on here. His name is Rusty. Really loves that too, and he gets a lot of shit for it because people talk about it because it really looks bad. I mean, it looks like somebody picked up a camcorder and start recording it, but it's done pretty good. You know what I mean? It's done all right. It's fun. It's Rusty feels like it has a charm to it. You know what I mean? It feels like he feels like that. It looking really cheap like that is the charm, you know, and we each have our own piece of that, you know.
It is. I love.
Have you seen Mountain Motel? Have you seen Mountain Top Motel Massacre? That's got a great vibe to it. That's got a great atmosphere.
Yeah, that was what I was about to say. Mountain Top Motel Massacre. Going underneath the shacks and everything, the tunnels. I would like to see that come out on 4K. I really like that film.
Wow,
and
cool. Yeah.
What was the other one? X-Ray or Hospital Massacre.
Right. What about Mother's Day from 1980? Mother's Day is fantastic.
That's
not a slasher, but I love it.
That's a good. There's actually some dark stuff in it. It wasn't until I watched it again a couple of recently. I was like, oh, this is some of it's a bit I Spit on Your Grave kind of.
Yeah, because that's trauma, man. You know what I mean? And it does not feel like a trauma film at all. They hadn't become the Toxic Avenger trauma yet. That was one of their first films, was Mother's Day, and they definitely were heading another way. You know, they decided to lighten it up and go Toxie on us. But hey, you know, which is cool. You know, Toxie has his place.
He does. For sure. I got the box set, and the first one's pretty good, but they just get worse and worse and worse.
Yeah. The remake, I think they've already remade that. It actually looks fun as fuck, man. This remake does.
I wouldn't mind checking out the remake, but I mean, Phantasm.
The first Phantasm. Do you like Phantasm?
I have not seen it yet. I'm in two minds whether to watch it, because I don't always go by what people say, but when people I do respect in their opinion say that they don't like something, then I'm like, okay, maybe I won't.
The original Phantasm is great, man.
Blood Rage is a good film.
Thanksgiving slasher,
yeah, and The Mutilator.
Yes. Yeah, you're going right along your arrows. I can see.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I got them right here. I got quite a few of those too. Yeah, there's oh shit, I'm trying to look at it here. You also got Maniac Cop in there. You got Eaten Alive, Sisters from Brian De Palma. Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah,
Hell
Maniac Cop was really good.
Yeah.
And
Let's see here. Are you big? I mean, the way that I got to know who you were was basically about that about the zombie slipcover. But are you big on Fulci and Baba and Martino and Argento and all them? Do you like a lot of
yeah,
those? Or?
so since I started collecting Arrow, and I started to hear these names, Argento and Barber and that kind of stuff. And then since I started the channel and exploring video nasties, yeah, I started to watch them. I mean, Tenebrae, what a fucking amazing film.
It is.
So,
Opera.
Sorry?
Opera is great. Deep Red, you talk about Argento. Like I said, between here and here, between 71 and 87, I don't think dude can almost do no wrong, Argento.
No. So I haven't got them all. I haven't got Opera. I haven't actually seen that yet. But I did. One. I mean, obviously, there was quite a few in the window box versions. I think Argento has the most,
yes.
if I remember rightly.
Yes.
But yeah, so obviously that's going into Italian horror. Now, most of the films are made in the US, but obviously they're Italian directors. And I mean, you've got things like Contamination, and that's Italian director, is it? Contamination?
I think so. Maybe. I haven't seen that since I was probably young, man, a kid. I don't remember if it is or not. I'm not sure.
But yes, I do respect them as filmmakers, and I don't always enjoy them. House by the Cemetery, people keep talking about it as this amazing film, and I struggled to watch it. I do like it, and you got City of the Living Dead. I have seen that trilogy, the Gates of Hell trilogy. And what else have we got? I mean, going back to the video nasties, things like Absurd and Anthropophagus. There's some real stuff there. And so I've got another question from Dave Milley. He says, as you have slowed a bit on your reviews, other than John Clancy, who do you recommend? What channels give trustworthy 4K reviews? Well, definitely Keith from Euphoria Pictures. So Dave literally only watches me and John Clancy, which is lovely of him. But yeah, definitely. Do you know the Euphoria Pictures channel?
Yes, I know Keith. I met Keith through Ben from Cadaver Club. Cool. Ben's a good friend of mine, and Ben actually got Keith started in collecting, and now Keith has got this unbelievably ridiculous collection. Keith does.
Yeah. His collection of special editions is just outstanding. To be honest, Dave,
you can tell he must make some money. The editions he has, the way he just gets them and gets them. He's always doing a good job.
Who knows what he does?
It's a good one, whatever it is.
Yeah, sure. But to answer Dave's question, I don't really know, mate, because since I've been getting back into the music, I've not really even been watching YouTube. Okay. What's his name? Adam at Movie 365. He's someone I trust. I don't know if you know that channel, Keith.
No.
Okay. So Movie Guy 365, a guy called Adam. He does some good reviews. So yeah, Dave, if you want to check someone else out, then I recommend him.
No, Dave, I would say Halloween to me is not a slasher. Halloween to me is all about the atmosphere. There isn't a lot of slashing in it. He watches, waits, and stalks more than he does any kind of killing. Slashing, you got to have a body count. You know what I mean? In a slasher, you got to go over a body count. In the original Halloween, no. So, Dave, if you talk about the original Halloween, in my opinion, no, it's not a slasher.
Yeah. I'm glad you answered that. So, yeah. Shall we give some more questions, guys? If you're still with us, give us some more questions.
All the other Halloweens are, but not the first one.
Yeah. You got any questions for me, Keith?
Well, shit, I think I am. Let me see. I was curious. Have you seen Burial Ground? I mean, I don't know how big of a zombie fan you are, but Burial Ground from 1980 is.
Yeah, I got the Blue Underground Blu-ray of that. So again, that's one of the video nasties, but it's
yeah.
So the video nasties are in 3 categories. So category 1, they were all 39 films successfully prosecuted, and some people did prison time for them. Yeah, weird, isn't it? Section 2, they tried to prosecute them, but they weren't successful. Section 3 were, if you've got them in your video store and we come and raid you, we'll be taking them. That's how that works. And Burial Ground was in, I think, Section 3. Yeah, that's a really cool film because it's so sort of commercial looking. It doesn't seem it doesn't fit the video nasty sort of titles.
Right.
You see what I mean? But
There's
it's so polished and commercial looking. Yeah, it's a really, really cool film.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's totally unique. Also, there's another zombie film from in the mid 70s as well. I think from 76. It's got 2 different names. It's Living Dead at Manchester Morgue or Let Sleeping Corpses Lie. That's another really good one.
Yeah, that's also a video nasty. I haven't got that yet. So Ricky G's just leaving us. He's been watching us. So thanks, Ricky. Thanks for tuning in, mate.
This video nasty? This is a damn good slasher. This is almost
not. Yeah, no, it's not actually. No,
really,
I got the Arrow box set with the puzzle. Yeah.
I got that too with the vinyl and everything. Yeah, I got that.
Yeah. It's a really good film. It's actually one of the better ones. So yes, Pieces would definitely be up there in my list.
Spanish. Yep.
Yeah. So, are there any new bands that you've discovered, or new to you anyway?
No, not so much as far as there was a couple of the thrash bands that I didn't really know about or get into, but way back in the day, but were kind of either coming up or were around. But as far as new, no, not really. I was going to ask you, we talked about different genres of the slasher, but the thrash bands and stuff like that. There was also another genre that we didn't really get into and talk about, and that was back in the day, back in the early '80s. They referred to it as it was like a skateboard thrash. It had bands like Suicidal Tendencies. I was curious.
I get you.
If you like them, they had a lot of good music. Suicidal did.
Yeah, no, I not a sort of a side shoot that I particularly went down. But no, I do know of Suicidal Tendencies. And I suppose the whole skateboarding crowd did have their own sort of kind of music. Do you put Deftones and that into that kind of thing, and Machine Head and all that Bay Area stuff, isn't it?
It had almost the rhythm of a thrash. You know what I mean? It almost had like a jam, like a thrash. Like it would change Like it would change tempos and shit a lot. It had a lot of music changes in it. Like say,
There was groove in it.
Like early Metallica had a lot of changes going on. I mean, especially in Injustice for All. But they had a lot of that kind of shit going on in it. Suicidal did. But
Yeah.
And a lot of times, especially in Suicidal's earlier stuff, they played a lot faster. Which I was never a huge fan of really fast thrash. That's why I prefer when you talk about Slayer. My preference of Slayer is South of Heaven and Seasons in the Abyss because it's more of a jam rather than just really.
Yeah. So you had Biohazard in there, didn't you?
Biohazard, yeah.
I know in the UK, the sort of because that became, I guess, the hardcore scene.
Right.
So you had bands like Stamping Ground, maybe US band like Willhaven, and that kind of thing. So, again, I think I was pretty sort of tunnel visioned at one point as to what I was listening to. So, heard about those bands, but never really had time to get into them or even listen to them properly. So Dave here says, remember when the Black Crowes hit the scene with Shake Your Moneymaker? Yeah. Did you like that album? Had the Rolling Stones feel? Yeah, I mean, wow. Wasn't that their biggest album? And there was a big documentary on it. It was when they just hit the limelight with that album.
Was that like all the big hits on it, like Stars Angels and all that?
Yeah, I mean, so Hard to Handle, even though it's a cover, their version of Hard to Handle was one of the first songs I ever did in the first band I was in, because it was a covers band. So the Black Crowes. I mean, I need to explore more of them. It's almost as if I need to be living 10 lives to be able to explore all these different.
Definitely, because I can't believe it. I was so much into the music back, you know what I mean, 80s and early and throughout the 90s. And there's so many of these heavier thrash bands that I never even heard of back then that I've been hearing a lot more about now. Like there's a music channel that I watch. He's a vinyl collector. His name is Mr. Boulder, and he's got a huge vinyl collection. And he's been mentioning all these different thrash bands and shit that had a bunch of albums all the way from the mid 80s that I never even heard of. And it blew me the fuck away, man. I was like, how did I not hear about these people? They must have been more underground, is what I can think of.
Yeah. But that's the good thing about Spotify and
Yes.
we have a I mean, okay, it's really shitting on the musicians because it's not paying them the royalties that they deserve, but it does give them exposure. And I know a lot of the way I listen to Spotify is if I like something, ideally I want to purchase it. I want to have a physical copy of it. So I do want to help the artist. I can't do it for all of them, but and I know there's plenty of other people like me out there that do that. But for the casual listeners, it does sort of destroy the music world a little bit or a lot, because the casual listeners can just go online and listen to anything they want without paying a penny or whatever. And so, as we were sort of saying earlier, how hard it is to get in, and to sort of further Dave's question earlier, yes, we've got that exposure and we can use Deezer, Spotify, Bandcamp, SoundCloud. And I mean, I've got my own music on SoundCloud, and each song has had a good number of listens, but it's not thousands. And I haven't grown a following out of it. It didn't encourage me to do more with it. I will finish those songs off. I can't leave them there. They're too good to be left as demos because they're only in demo form. But so it is really, really hard because everyone and anyone is doing the same thing. So it's who can shout the loudest and who can shine the brightest that we're going to get noticed. So Dave says Kubrick said that too. Depressing. There is not enough time to see all the films, read the books, and hear all the albums. Yeah, exactly. We're completely saturated with everything.
Everything gets that way. just like the YouTube community. You know, this whole thing here, it's so saturated with horror collectors and shit now that there's so many. You know, it's just become just, you know, yeah, it's really hard. You get one person they'll make their first video and it'll get 10,000 views, and another person will make the first video it'll get 10 views. You know what I mean? Like YouTube claims algorithm. I think algorithm is a myth. I don't believe there's algorithm. I really don't.
No, they're
I
trying to
think,
sort out that us people that put effort into it. They want to force us to put even more effort into it, and then the people that stumble across something that everyone likes, they're like, oh, that'll do. It's like record labels, isn't it? One good band comes out, so they find all the other bands that sound the same and they sign them all.
yep,
And they all do one album and then they disappear. But the record labels made shitloads of money out of them.
right.
Same with films. You know, someone comes up with a great idea, suddenly everyone else is making the same films. I mean, I used to follow the Marvel films, and we got up to Black Panther. I've got films beyond that, but I haven't even got to Endgame. And then, of course, it carried on.
Yeah.
And I just don't
Not
have
for the better
time.
either. Not for the better either. No.
No.
I think it's a big hooray. Pretty much ended with Infinity War. You know what I mean? That was the last really good one. You know, that showed a lot of balls. It showed a lot of guts. You know, to have Thanos win, to have all them lose like that blew people's mind. There's people in the theater crying, man.
Yeah. I can imagine. I mean, like I said, we got up to Black Panther and we haven't got any further, but you know, I kind of know what happened, so it's not a big spoiler. But
right.
And following the Star Wars, I'm going to follow that a bit more because I'm more of a Star Wars fan. So I've got your Ahsoka, which I still need to watch. I've watched Andor season 1 and 2, The Mandalorian. I've watched those, and you know, my mate and I are trying to go through Star Wars from the beginning. So we both, without knowing, watched The Phantom Menace around the same time, and then Attack of the Clones. And I said to him, well, why don't we carry on? And because I've got all the Clone Wars series, so we won't get to Revenge of the Sith until we've watched the Clone Wars series.
Right.
And then, you know, so we want to experience the story chronologically as it's supposed to be experienced.
Right.
But then on top of that, so on top of my horror films, on top of my music, on top of Star Wars, I like World War II. So delving into World War II films, from the war itself, you know, films that were made during the war, propaganda films and that sort of stuff, to everything and anything that's been made subsequently. And you get all your big films, your Patterns and your Bridge Too Far and Pearl Harbor and all that sort of stuff. But there's lots of little films. I mean, I watched one recently called 6 Minutes to Midnight. Now, it was about an Anglo-German school, girls' school, that was in England, and it's 1939. And you know, they got the party badges and everything like that. And this is literally just before the conflict starts. And you know, someone's investigating the school because they know that they're going to get called back to the motherland. And you know, had they been spying, what's been going on, and that sort of thing. And it's actually a really good film. It's got Judi Dench and Eddie Izzard in it. And the reason it's called 6 Minutes to Midnight is the detective's the phone number he has to ring is 1154. So 11:54, 6 minutes to midnight. And that's so, and that sort of thing. I love it's a tiny aspect of it, but I love little stories like that that actually help with the bigger picture in the long run.
Yes. Because within
So,
one
yeah.
big story, you've got a million little stories. You know what I mean? You can't have a big story without a bunch of everything going on. Yeah.
No. But
It's cool
also
to hit
equally, you don't want someone coming up with you know, your big story and then everyone making a TV series out of all the little bits,
Right.
because it's just like, okay, too much information. We don't need it. We've got to use our imagination, and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'd like to be
Anyway.
told everything. Yeah, the theater of the mind is some of the best part of watching any kind of film or anything. You know what I mean? If you tell me everything, you know what I mean? I like to at least wonder a little bit. That's why a lot of films I like leave the ending open just a little bit for interpretation. Done correctly, those are great movies.
Yeah. See, now this divides opinion at work, because at work some of the guys I work with are quite a lot of Star Wars fans. Now we're led to believe Anakin is the chosen one. Yeah.
Right.
Luke isn't, because he's just light. He's just Jedi.
Right.
But Anakin goes to the dark side, so they're like, maybe he's not the chosen one then.
Right.
Now, I know George Lucas came on before the sequel came out, and said, no, Anakin was the chosen one. So he's done that.
Right.
But now the sequels have come out, and we've got Rey. She's the chosen one because she's a Palpatine, but she's
Right.
a Jedi, sort of, she's both.
Yeah.
So it's not, if one person's bringing balance to the Force, they have to be both. Luke isn't, Anakin isn't. Anakin just started light and went dark. But Rey is both. So I was like, that's it. And I really like that about it. That's my interpretation. But other people are like, no.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I hadn't really thought about that. Because back in the day, there was actually argument back in the day when, like, during like Empire Strikes Back and then Return of the Jedi, when they find out that Luke and Leia are brother and sister, there was actually a little bit of debate back then, because like when they said, he keeps our last hope, and Yoda says, no, there is another, and then you find out that Leia has the Force too. So there was a bit of debate of which one of them it was too, but it's like, no, George Lucas made it very clear that no, as far as his writing went, it was Anakin. And he did bring balance to it. If you look at him as the, he did bring balance to it. He balanced it first because the Jedi had become corrupt. He balanced it by killing them off and doing what happened there with the Order 66, and then it became out of balance again. It was too strong with the Empire, and he balanced it again by getting rid of the Emperor and himself. So he actually balanced it twice.
Yeah, he brought the dark side into where there was too much light, and so I don't disagree with the whole Anakin thing. It's just, to me, they've just decided that this one person is going to be Rey, and but that's the good thing about it. We're allowed to have our own thoughts and our own interpretation, aren't we? So,
but this is good discussions. You can't have good discussion if everybody has the same opinion. That's that's where you can kind of bounce it off of each other, and hear like, well, yeah, that makes sense, but this is what I'm thinking. You know what I mean? And that's where a good conversation comes from. That's a discussion. I that's what I love most about being able to actually get together with other people. Like, say, like you and I, we're not in the same band or whatever. Well, we can have a discussion about music and respect each other's opinion. Same thing with films. First time we talked in general, we talked about a bunch of films and music. So you know what I mean, and that's what makes a good discussion. Unless you're with an asshole that doesn't want to hear your side, in which case,
then you're always going to be wrong.
And I'm not a bunch of those people. People I was closest friends with were those assholes. And I'm still wondering why I was so close to these people.
So Dave says, any thoughts on Nolan and the Odyssey? He says, I'm torn in that I'm excited to see a film about this subject finally, but the book itself is so special to me. I wonder if Nolan hype will spoil it. Now I'm not a fan of Nolan. I like the Dark Knight trilogy. It's amazing. But his make of Dunkirk was a failure as far as I'm concerned. Yes, it's a beautifully made film. But when you watch the 1950s version, there's so much more in that story than just taking the men off the beach. And
Right.
one of the biggest things to come out of Dunkirk was, where was the RAF? The guys on the beach hated the RAF because they didn't feel they were getting the support. But what they didn't know was, one, they were 35,000 feet up in tiny little planes, so you couldn't see them. But two, they were
Yeah.
behind enemy lines trying to prevent them getting to the beach.
Yeah.
I was hoping, when I heard that he was making this film, I was hoping we were going to hear all that. All these questions were going to be answered. Because, you know, it's not about leaving it to interpretation and making up your own mind. This was based on reality, so we need to know what happened. And the RAF need to be vindicated for, yes, we were there helping. So the fact he didn't do that really pissed me off. So I don't like that film. Interstellar, just I didn't get it. Yes, it's visually stunning, but I just didn't get it.
Do you like Clint Eastwood's take on World War II?
Say again?
Do you like Clint Eastwood's take on World War II?
Yes. What he's been doing, I mean, you know, he
tried to stay factual, I do believe.
Yeah, Letters from Iwo Jima and Flags of Our Fathers, fantastic. I mean, it was only meant to be one film, and then he decided to do the other side of it. But even his time, but even his time in the films, you know, where he was there, and what else is he in? What's the other one? I forget now. Oh, Kelly's Heroes and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, again, I've got about 400 World War II films. That's barely scratching the surface. Yes, I've got the big ones that everyone knows, but you know, the fact that it's a world war, there's films from all over the world. So yeah, so Dave agrees with me. He says he knows my thoughts on them, and he finds them a bit pretentious. Anyway, so we've just hit the 2-hour mark. Now, in our communications before this stream, you mentioned lyrics. So, do you want to share some of lyrics that you wrote? You said you had something you wanted to share.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I have some. Yeah, I mean, I actually have some songs, and these are full songs, but I wish I would have played more instruments while I was doing it. But I like to be in frontman. I like to, you know, not having the guitar or anything get in my way. I love playing drums though. Drums are a blast. There's a couple songs that we wrote in one night of jam. We hadn't jammed together in a long time, and we came back together up in northern Indiana, and we ended up coming up with two brand new songs. We jammed from 10 a.m. until like 1 a.m. Like all those hours. My throat was so hoarse, but we created two full songs from beginning to end. Two of the best songs we ever did.
Yeah.
One of them was called Dynasty of Hate, and the other one was called Manipulation.
Nice.
Let me see here. Let me see which one I want to go here. And then there's another one here too called Fractured. It's an older one. It's from October '93. But yeah, I can read just a little. It's the first time I've shared any of my lyrics in 25 years.
Oh well, I'm privileged.
These are well, yeah. I mean, you know, let's see which ones I want to do here. Yeah, this is it's been a while for sure. Yeah, it's something I would have preferred to have done a little earlier before I got a little more mentally worn out. But because live streaming, how I don't know, but most people that I talk to, you know, on YouTube and everything that does live streams. When you're doing the live stream, do you feel mentally worn out? I mean, do you feel like your brain, you almost have a headache?
Yeah. I can feel my head. Yeah. Don't worry.
Yes. And that's what I was talking about. You know, 2 hours of live streaming is a lot rougher than what people think it would be.
Oh yeah.
Especially because I mean you're sharing so much with everybody.
Yeah.
All right. Let me give you I will give you one verse of Dynasty of Hate first of all. I wish I could tell you how it goes because that is so important, but I don't have it recorded anymore, and I don't had, well, even if I did play an instrument, I don't have it. I wish I'd have kept those tapes, but I'm a very finalistic person. And when I was done and I was so heartbroken over it, I just got rid of it. I just stopped for years. I didn't. Okay. Oh, let's see. All right, here, this will be the first one, the first verse. Okay. Life without sorrow, that forbidden dream, all alone tomorrow, much too frightened to scream. Caught up in anguish, and I know it's real, because something is lurking far beneath my heels. I gave up on love because I watched it die. No help from above, just tears in my eyes. If I beg to you gently, will it all go away? Will I ever speak again, or will I regret the day?
Wow, man.
That's the first verse of that. Now, Manipulation is my favorite song that we did throughout that whole time. But yeah, I was always very proud of that. Well, as a matter of fact, that was a song that I don't know if I put verse. No, I didn't write down verse 2. But when we discussed doing this, I hadn't had these lyrics wrote down in all these years, and this is stuff that was that I wrote in 1996. So I was going on memory. But once I got rolling, I got to start remembering. I was afraid I wouldn't. But I wrote these down especially because we was going to do this.
Oh.
Okay. Now this is Manipulation. This is one of the verses anyway. Okay. Now this, see if you know exactly what this is about or who this is kind of inspired by.
Right.
Let me see. Oh shit! Hold on. I don't know what it is here. Hold on. Okay. I'll speak of all this dissension and tell you what you want to hear. And through my tunneled obsession, I left the world in fear. I'll see what you can't see, and I know what you can't. Your secrets of freedom lead to me. So put your life in my hand. And then the hook goes, because I know how it must have felt, but I was just trying to please myself. And I know retribution is hell, but when it's lost, you lose yourself. And then there's one chorus where it says manipulation, and it's manipulation again, it says of the mind. And then the second chorus, so you got a verse, hook, chorus, and then second chorus. Second chorus really kicks in. It's so easy to control the blind. It's manipulation of the mind, manipulation over all mankind. I said manipulation of the mind. The second verse of that is try to understand this fiend of old and let me take control. I'm the master of your mind. I use intercourse to reach your soul. Make you do what I know you want, to die in ecstasy. So you realize that I'm the one who's desperate for intimacy.
Wow, man.
So yeah, that's just some of them. Yeah.
That's cool. Really, really good words. Really good lyrics. Were they heavy songs? Were they sort of raucous?
Those were I would say if you compare it to it wouldn't be thrash and it wouldn't be rock metal or you know what I mean. It wouldn't be Motley Crue or Guns N' Roses. And at the same time, it wouldn't be it wouldn't be Slayer. It would be, you know, oh god, I really can't tell you who I would compare it to musically because we didn't really sound like anybody. We were just we had a good rock groove, but with heavy guitar, and we'd like to get into a jam. Like the way we like to start a song is it was, you know, the guitar would play through and it would play through like that same measure like 4 times, and then like say the drums would kick in and it would play it through another 4 times, and then the lyrics would kick in. So we like to get into a good groove and a good jam before I ever even brought the lyrics in. So
nice. Let the song breathe.
Yeah. Yes. And get rolling. You know what I mean? I hate a song that just plays something through once and then, you know, with the drums and everything at the same time, and then the lyrics jump right in. Let the guitar groove for a minute, kick the drums in to kick along with it, and then you jam together with, you know, the whole band. And then when you get a good feel for that and you get a good flow going, then jump in with the lyrics. That's what I like to do.
People in.
You can't use that same formula on everything all the time, or it's going to get monotonous. But I like that flow. I love that. That way, by the time I came in with the lyrics, you know, it was a point where I was already moving. I was already
You've
moving
got
as if I
people's attention.
you know. So yeah,
Yeah, you've got their attention. You're like, come here, listen.
yes,
I'll tell you what, I've got loads of lyrics on my phone. I'll share some of mine. So Dave just says, very great to meet you, Agoraphobe, and again, to be with you two today. Great writing there, so he liked your lyrics.
thank you. I
Hope
appreciate
we can
that.
do this again. Yeah, I'd love to do this again. I'm sure there's shitloads more we can talk about.
Oh, definitely.
And he says, have a great weekend. Cheers, Dave. He says, thank you to Trevor. All the best and see you soon. Yeah. So take it easy, Dave.
Take it easy.
I got an idea for a video, so that should be coming maybe beginning of next week. So keep an eye out for that. Right. Let's see what I've got here. I write about, it depends on your mood, doesn't it? And if you hear something that inspires you, no, that's more of a. I've got these color notes on my phone, and I've color coded them so I know what's what, but I've forgotten what the code is.
Yeah. It's always hard when you're trying to explain your song or without actually just playing it and let someone listen. You know what I mean? To it jamming. It's so much harder when you're trying to explain different shit. It really is because they weren't there when you wrote it. They're not in your head. You know.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know what inspired this as such, and this is unfinished, but it's called One Last Kiss. And it says, one last kiss before I take to the sky, one last embrace, sure to make us cry. One glance into your sky blue eyes, my heart sinks into, it is my time. Remind me with a kiss just why I love you. Yeah, I guess I'll finish that off at some point. Maybe I need to be in a pretty dark mood to sort of finish that off. As I said, don't know what inspired that. And so I don't even drink. I don't do drugs or smoke or anything. But I've written this. It's called After the Weekend. After the weekend, spent all the time drinking. When they get to work on Monday morning, they see her running her fingers through her hair. Thoughts of Saturday night when all the guys did was drink and fight. Seeing a pretty lady got them thinking maybe they should have been working that night. Just things like that. I push myself to see what I can come up with. So this one, Stone the Crow. Stone the Crow, the bringer of the end of the world. See man fall beneath the wave of his own desire. Pound the man, the victim of his fellow beings. He will succumb to the wind of the foe. Fallen has the wave that crashes the air we breathe. The tide pushed forth by man himself, stifled under coin, our evolution stunted by a coloured parchment and the weight in our pockets. Once this burden is gone, we will flourish and propose beyond all beliefs and prosper beyond all beliefs. It's not all gloom upon our doom, for the light that hides the end of the tunnel is the new life we forever crave. Not one where death has become but fields of life and vigor, the strongest pawn on our side, the gentle touch of a mother gives, shows the way and builds us to survive. So, yeah. Anyway.
Man. Yeah. Well, yeah, man. Very cool. That you can tell you're into I can tell by the bands that you named and by the writing you like a lot of that. Yeah. A lot of the darker side, a lot of the deeper side. Mine almost has a swing. It almost has you could tell that I was metal influenced, but you can also tell that I was metal rock influenced too. Like for instance, I'll tell you this one verse of this, and I have it from memory. I wrote it in '89 when I was 16. It's called Dry Gin, and if where those are a little heavier, this if I was to put this with a band, it would be fucking Poison or Warrant. Just listen to these words. Jenny's kind of funny, won't let you taste her honey. She's got a hell of an attitude. Was named the Tease Queen. Always talked and leave the scene until she ran into this dude. He said, wait a minute. He said, bitch, stop your talking and start your laying because I ain't got the time. She said, if you want to lay me, well, boy, you better pay me. He said, baby, all I got is this time. That was 16. That was 16. That was you know what I mean? That was, you know, that's a little more of a fun song. That and another one I called Crack the Bone. So yeah.
That was good, man. Anyway,
fun.
I've had a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed talking to you, mate. Yeah, we should definitely do this again sometime.
You go to my channel next if you're interested in doing that.
Yeah, definitely, mate.
I'll set it up. Just I don't know. I talk to you sometime next few days or whatever. We could try to figure out a time and get it together, man. I'll bring you over there and you meet my peeps and all of my all the debauchery over there. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, mate. That would be great. Well, thank you very much. Thank you to everyone who watched. Really appreciate you watching. And to anyone who's watching this after the fact, if you've got any questions, you can still ask me, I suppose, and you can, I guess, you'll be able to see the video, won't you? So you could go into questions and answer any if there are any. I don't suppose there will, because as you know, my channel's not been doing much of late. So I'm just glad that we had a few people watching us. Regardless of people watching us, it was just awesome to talk to you. Some great stories.
Back at you. Thanks for having me, man. I much appreciate it.
No, you're very welcome. Definitely we'll do it again. Yeah, we'll come over to you. Take a road trip to the USA, huh?
Cool. That sounds good to me, man.
All right, dude. So I'll stop the recording and we'll just wrap up afterwards. Right. So bye, everyone. Where's the fucking? There we go. End stream.